second here. Again, apologies for being a couple minutes late to the show, but we're doing well now. Just gonna make sure that I am live. Let me just see. Yep, all good with the live. Yeah, so how's everyone doing? It's great to be back. Really, really excited to talk to you guys today. Obviously, a big day for football as the NFL schedule releases come out, and we will, the majority of the show is going to be reacting to the New York Giants schedule release that came out today. It's not I think officially official yet, but I mean it pretty much gets leaked. One of the funniest things about the schedule release is that it basically gets leaked, throughout the day before the 8 o'clock, I believe, is the actual reveal of the schedule coming out. So it's pretty funny that transpires, obviously, with the schedule release. And everything else. So yeah, I mean it's great to be here, and like I said, we're gonna go through the Giants' schedule, what I think of the schedule, kind of some of the some of my thoughts, kind of off the top about the schedule, things I like, things I don't like about it, and we'll finish the show with some Yankee thoughts. I have a couple thoughts on Anthony Volpe as that situation continues to be a little bit of a saga for the Yankees, and then obviously. I'll have some takes on the Max Fried injury, which unfortunately came down yesterday. I don't believe we've gotten any news about it. But off the top, yeah, let's get right into the schedule. And obviously, if you're watching the stream on YouTube, please like the stream and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Really, really appreciate that. First thoughts on the Giants' schedule. It is a more manageable schedule than in recent years. The Giants' 2026 schedule is more manageable than in recent years. And, I think back to the 2023 schedule where, the Giants were coming off of that first year under Brian Daboll where they made the playoffs, and there was obviously a lot of excitement around the team. They paid Daniel Jones in the offseason. It was like, oh, we finally maybe found our successor to Eli. Jones coming off of that great playoff game against the Vikings and all those things. And they opened the year against Sunday Night Football, playing on Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys, as they are this year, which we will get to in the schedule. And I was at the game. I am a Giant season ticket holder, as many of you know. One of the worst games I've ever been to. I mean, 40-0. It was an absolute shellacking by the Dallas Cowboys in that game. And the Giants obviously end up losing 40-0, and then they had the week 2 game against the Cardinals, which was a pretty easy game. But then after that, you go on the road for a Thursday night against the San Francisco 49ers, one of the best teams in the NFL. You come home on a Monday night and you play the Seattle Seahawks, another really good team, in prime time. And then you go on the road and you play the Buffalo Bills and the Miami. They play the Dolphins first. You play the Dolphins and then the Bills, both on the road. Extremely difficult games, back when Miami was good. So the first 6 games of that schedule, it was just a gauntlet. Outside of the Arizona Cardinal game, it was like, man, where are we resting in this schedule? It was brutal. Absolutely a brutal schedule for the Giants. This year, it's not the case, right? You look at the Giants' schedule. Obviously, they start off difficult, and we will go game by game. Don't worry. But they start off difficult with the Cowboys and the Rams, but then there's 4 games in a row there where they're really manageable. So that's the biggest takeaway for me, is that it's a more manageable schedule than in previous years. We'll go through the games, and we will kind of see what we're going to do, and as we go through the games, I will basically give a so what we'll do first is this. I'll give some other thoughts on the schedule. We'll go through it. And then at the end of the schedule, and then at the end of that, I'll give my win-loss prediction. So, a couple other thoughts. Difficult first 2 games. Really difficult first 2 games. You're playing the Dallas Cowboys week 1 in prime time on Sunday Night Football, a team that has absolutely owned the Giants. Dak Prescott in his career, I believe, has only lost 3 games to the Giants. One of them was his first start of his career. back in 2016 when the Giants quarterback was Eli Manning. We're talking 10 years ago. Literally 10 years ago. One of them was last year when the Giants beat Dallas week 18 at MetLife Stadium, and Dallas did not play Dak Prescott in the second half of that game. And then there's another one in there that I can't really remember. The Giants, Dak Prescott owns the Giants. He's owned them throughout his entire career. And obviously that is something that has to change. Now with the new, hiring of John Harbaugh and all those things, the Giants need to change that narrative. But Dak Prescott has owned the Giants. And then you're facing the Rams, who they're a Super Bowl favorite, right? They're certainly the NFC favorite, I believe. If you look at the gambling odds on FanDuel Sportsbook or anywhere, I would assume the Rams are the favorite to win the NFC. Really, really good football team. Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, Puka Nacua. The list goes on. Difficult first two games. But then, as I mentioned, you have a 4-game stretch where in 3 of those 4 games, you're going to be favored. And in the 4th game, you probably will be a slight underdog. Maybe a 1.5-point underdog, maybe a 1-point underdog, maybe a pick'em type game. But in those games against the Tennessee Titans, against the Arizona Cardinals, and against the New Orleans Saints, the Giants are going to be favored. All home games. All home games. The Giants are going to be favored. And, facing Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck, and I don't know, whoever the Cardinals start, Jacoby Brissett, you feel like there is a landing spot in the schedule after those first 2 games. Another thought I had. The Giants have a bye week. Now, it was reported, it's not 100% yet when the bye week is, because, again, the schedule's not actually official yet. But the bye week is supposedly week 8, in between week 7 against the Texans and week 9 against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a big plus, in my opinion, to have a bye week leading into the first game against the Eagles, because you have a full week off. And I think that's really important. So that's another one. 4 primetime games is another thought. They obviously start the year, as I mentioned, with the Cowboys. And then they go to the Lions on a Monday night. They go to the Rams on a Monday night, week 2. And then they obviously play Washington on a Thursday night in week 10. And the last thought before we do the win-loss predictions is it's a difficult close to the season, right? The second half of the schedule is definitely more difficult than the first half of the schedule. And I think if you look at kind of the last 4 games of the season, right? You play the Cowboys, you play the Eagles, you play the Lions. That's a difficult close to the season. Those last 3 games, Lions, Cowboys, Eagles, is a difficult close to the season. So those are kind of my big picture takeaways. Now, let's get into the win-loss prediction. So we're going to go game by game, and I'll give my thoughts on each game. Some of them, obviously, I'll have more thoughts on than others. And, look, something I'll say about schedules and everything. Predicting win-loss is really a pointless exercise. I'm going to do it for the show and for my viewers and all those things, but you really don't know what teams are going to look like in the middle of the season versus when the schedule comes out. You just don't know, right? And I think that it is a funny thing that people try to do these win-loss predictions. You don't know if a quarterback's going to have a sprained ankle. You don't know if, there's going to be a team that's ravaged by injuries. You have no idea some of these things that are outside of these teams' control as the season goes on. So predicting win-loss in the middle of May, today's May 14th like we're doing, it's kind of a pointless exercise. It's a fun exercise, and that's why we're going to do it. But I just wanted to say, you have no idea what these teams are going to look like. We got some comments in the chat here. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. What game are you most looking forward to watching us win? Thank you for the comment. I really appreciate it. What game am I looking forward to watching us win? Well, really, it's the first game of the season. I would love if the Giants could open the season on prime time against the Cowboys with a win. And that kind of transitions us into the schedule. The week 1 game against Dallas is a fascinating matchup because both teams are breaking in very new systems. The only system that is surviving from last year to this year is the Dallas offense, ran by their head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. Dak Prescott is back. CeeDee Lamb is back. All those characters are back. But defensively, they brought in a new defensive coordinator, Christian Parker. They're breaking in 8 new starters. Now, Christian Parker, he obviously worked with Vic Fangio in Philly. There's a lot of hype around Christian Parker as a defensive coordinator, but we have to remember, again, 8 new starters. This is his first game ever as a defensive play caller. That's going to be a challenge to integrate all those new guys on that defense. So something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind about that game is John Harbaugh, as you may have known, as you may have heard, is the Giants head coach now. John Harbaugh, in opening day games, is 12-6 in opening week games in his 18 years, obviously, in Baltimore. Now, is that going to translate to New York? We have no idea. But there's certainly an element of, for me in this game, that you give John Harbaugh 4.5 months to prepare for the game. And he's talked extensively in the offseason about, we're trying to beat Dallas. We're trying to beat Philly. That's what we're kind of molding our team to do. And he's got 4.5 months to prepare, playing against Brian Schottenheimer. So that is another encouraging piece. Unfortunately, though, I am predicting a loss in this game. And I think part of it is, I don't believe this team's going to be ready to play opening week Sunday Night Football against a really, really good Cowboys team on paper. Like, they've done a lot of work to their defense. We know the offense with Dak Prescott is really explosive. So I'm going to predict a loss. Now, I think it will be much closer than the 40-0 drubbery that we saw, in 2023 in MetLife Stadium. But I still think the Giants will lose this game. So I'm going to predict the loss there. Week 2 against the Rams. Not too much to say about this game. Unfortunately, I don't think that the Giants are going to win this game. I think it's a loss. I think it's a tough spot for the Giants to be in. You're facing a Rams team that, like I said, is a Super Bowl favorite. They're bringing back the same coach, the same quarterback. It's prime time. The one positive for the Giants in this game that I will mention, even though I'm predicting a loss, some places where you play in prime time, the game becomes significantly more difficult. Like I'm going to mention as we get to the end of the year, they play the Lions in prime time. To me, that makes that game exponentially more difficult. Because the Lions have an environment that is just going to be really, really tough to play in a primetime setting. You're in a dome, the crowd's louder, all those things. The Rams are not a fan base and a stadium that really I would consider a tough place to play. You got to travel across the country. But the fans and the environment of the game, I don't think will be something that the Giants can't handle. That being said, I'm predicting a loss here. So 0-2 to start the year. Titans week 3, I'm predicting a win. I think the Giants get their first win here. I think that the Titans have made some improvements this offseason, but ultimately I believe the Giants are a better team. Week 4, I've already kind of memorized the schedule here. Let's see, week 4, Arizona Cardinals at home. I'm also going to predict a win here. I think the Cardinals are probably going to be one of the 3 worst teams in the NFL this year. Up there with the Miami Dolphins and maybe the Raiders or the Jets. Like in that group, the Browns are another team that we obviously will play on the Giants schedule. But yeah, I personally don't think the Cardinals are going to be good. I'm going to predict a win. Week 5 at Washington. I'm actually going to predict a loss here. And, it's funny, the Giants in the Daniel Jones era, ironically enough, they owned Washington. Owned them. Like, Daniel Jones played his best football against the Commanders, and the Giants had great success against them. The Giants have not beaten Washington since 2023. They got swept in 2024, and they got swept in 2025. Now, obviously, it's a new Giant team this year, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think it's a guaranteed sweep. And I'm not going to predict that. So I'm going to predict a loss in week 5. Week 6, the Giants play the New Orleans Saints at MetLife Stadium. I'm going to predict a win here. This is going to be a fun game because Shuck and Dart the offensive rookie of the year conversation that went down last year. Um, everybody loves Tyler Shuck, and everybody's quick to question Jackson Dart and how he's going to progress as the Giants franchise quarterback. I'm extremely excited to see how Dart gets up for this game as a guy who I know is a little bit petty, and I know that Dart is going to be ready for this game. So I'm going to predict a win. So through 6, I have the Giants at 3-3. Game 7 at the Texans. This one might surprise you. I'm going to give the Giants a win here. I think that the Giants have had success in Houston. You go back to 2018 season, one of the few games they won that year, or I think they won 5 games. One of the few games they won that year was actually in Houston, one of Eli Manning's last seasons. And then you go all the way back to, I think, 2010, they won in Houston. So they've won the last couple times they played there. And I think a 1 o'clock kick in Houston, an environment that the Giants have been comfortable in, I could see the Giants winning that game. The Texans have an incredible defense. We understand their front 7 might be the best in football with Will Anderson and all those guys, Danielle Hunter, etc. But their offense does not scare me in the least. And I think that the Giants have some concerns this year defensively. That obviously last year they were like 26 in the league in defense. And I don't think Houston can exploit those. So I'm going to give the Giants a win there. Got a comment. Ray, thank you for joining. To be fair, I think we'll be about 500, but I don't think we'll make the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, as you're seeing with, and thank you for the comment, man. As you're seeing with my prediction here, I think the Giants will be around a 500 team. Will they make the playoffs? I think they'll be right on the borderline. I think they'll be in contention all year for the postseason. But I agree with you, it's right on the borderline. Again, thank you for the comment. So 4-3, bye week is week 8. Week 9 at Philly, I'm going to go loss. My God, I mean, the Giants have not won in Philly since, I don't know, like the second Obama term. I mean, they've not won in Philly, I think, since like 2013. I think. I mean, they won a game in 2013. Mike Kafka might have been quarterbacking for the Eagles or something like that. It was a long time ago. Like, you're looking at like 13 years that the Giants have not won in Philly. I think I'm right on that. I think that's the last time they've won in Lincoln Financial Field. They couldn't even win a couple years ago in Lincoln Financial Field when the Eagles were resting their starters. So, I mean, it's a house of horrors, and I don't think it's going to change this year. So I'm going to predict a loss there. So through 8, 4-4. Commanders home Thursday Night Football. I'm going to give the Giants a win here. Not the easiest spot, I will say, because you're at home, but you're coming off of a really emotional Philly game and a divisional game in a tough environment, and then 4 days later you got to play Washington. So not the easiest turnaround there, but I am going to give the Giants a win there, and that puts them at 5-4. Week 11, home versus the Jaguars. I'm going to give the Giants a win here as well to get them to 6-4. I think this is, the opposite of the Commanders game. I think this is a great spot for the Giants. They probably have the rest advantage, right? Because it's a Thursday game and they're not playing until the following Sunday. And the game is November 22nd. You have a good weather team in Jacksonville traveling to play in East Rutherford, New Jersey, where it could be windy, it could be rainy, who the hell knows with the weather. And I think that's a good spot for the Giants. And again, I think Jacksonville's going to be a pullback team. I don't really trust Jacksonville to kind of take another step under Liam Cohen. I think that they're good, but I'm going to predict a win there. I'll speed this up to not, because I got a couple Yankee things too, so we'll go a little rapid fire. At Colts, the Daniel Jones Bowl. I'm gonna go loss there. I just think between the Colts and the Texans, I think the Giants are going to split those 2 road games, so 6-5. Niners at home. I am going to give a loss to that, for that game. Last year, the Niners were at MetLife Stadium, and my God, it felt like you were in Candlestick Park. I mean, it was, or wherever they play now. Not Candlestick Park, Levi Stadium. But the stadium was just overtaken by Niner fans. I mean, it had to be 50% Niner fans. I've been going to games for 5 years. I've never seen anything like that. So, again, I think that'll happen less this year because the Giants, I think, are going to be better. John Harbaugh, the whole 9 yards. But That's one of the fan bases that we play that travel well, and I think that'll be a difficult game. So I'm going to go loss. At Seattle, playing the Super Bowl champs, the defending Super Bowl champs, I will go loss there to get them to 6-7. Browns at home, I think the Browns are going to be really bad this year. Who knows who will be quarterbacking them at the end of the year? So I'll give the Giants a win there to get to 7-7. At Lions, Monday Night Football, I will give another loss there. I think that it is going to be one of the toughest spots of the season for the Giants. You're playing a road game against a good team, but in a really hostile environment, being a Monday night game on the road. I think it's going to be a tough game. So I'm going to go loss there. Cowboys, week 17 on the road. I'm going to go loss. And then Eagles, week 18 to close the season. I'm going to go win. So I have the Giants going 8-9. Ray, another comment, maybe 8-9 or 9-8. Yep, you're on my page. I have the Giants going 8-9 on the year. I absolutely could see the Giants being 9-8. I could see them going 10-7. I think they're in that 8-10 win range. 7-9, 8-10, something like that. I think is the reasonable prediction for the Giants schedule. But overall, look, guys, this is the big picture takeaway from the Giants schedule. It is a manageable schedule this year. You're not looking at this schedule like, oh my God, how are we going to win any of these games? You're going to be favored in 4 or 5 of these games. You're going to have, I think, a really good opportunity to get off to a good start. I mean, you look at the first 6 games of the season. If the Giants can get out of week 2, they go at Dallas, at the Rams, both in prime time. If the Giants can get out of that 1-1, they could be set up for an incredible start to the season. Because then you go Titans, Cardinals, Commanders, Saints. 4 teams that are projected to be non-playoff teams this year. 5-1, 4-2. I mean, if you get to 1-1, you have a really good opportunity to be 4-2 going into that game at Houston. And I think that's kind of that's got to be the goal for the Giants. Get one of those first 2 in prime time in front of the nation, and then you have an opportunity, obviously, as you play the 3rd game of the season and the 4th game and the 5th game and the 6th game, you have an opportunity to have a soft landing spot and have a good start to the season. That is where this season can really get off on a good note, is if you get a split in the first 2, and then you go out and you really make some hay against some of these not great teams. Let's be nice about it. But yeah, that's my Giants schedule prediction. Again, 8-9, could see them going 9-8, could see them going 10-7. I think they're in that range. I think the over/under of 7.5 is a fair number for the New York Giants. Pivoting to the Yankees now, and not going to spend too much time on the Yankees today, but I do have a couple topics that I really want to dive into and go through. Again, if you're watching the stream on YouTube, I appreciate it. Drop a comment if you're watching, and also like the stream. Really appreciate it. But Yankees. Was watching the game yesterday, and it just man, it got on my nerves. And the Anthony Volpe situation has gone too far. And the Yankees are partially at fault, but they also have to do something about it. Yesterday, 8th inning, it was like clockwork. Ground ball up the middle, Volpe ranges over, backing up on the ball, doing everything that you wouldn't tell a 12-year-old infielder to do. Boots it, E6. It is clear that Anthony Volpe's mental state and his confidence are shot, gone, done, over. And I don't get the Yankees' handling of Anthony Volpe. This is a player that the Yankees called up as like a 21 or 22-year-old rookie to be the starting shortstop for the New York Yankees. That's big stuff. Entrusted him with a lot. You call him up to be the shortstop. You give him every single opportunity for a 3-year period. He gets off-season shoulder surgery. Let's take a step back. He gets hurt in the middle of the season, in like May of 2025. He's actually producing when he gets hurt. He gets injured. He plays the entire rest of the season with basically a partially torn labrum, which obviously was not good for the kid. Then in the offseason, at the deadline, the Yankees trade for Caballero. Caballero starts the season as the shortstop. Caballero performs well. Volpe loses his job. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you the Yankees didn't do the right thing continuing to play Caballero and giving him the starting opportunity. Here's my issue and what I don't get. Everybody knows, including the Yankees, George Lombard is the future shortstop of this organization. He's in AAA. Next year, whenever baseball comes back from the lockout, George Lombard is going to be the Yankee shortstop. I would be shocked if he wasn't. Yet, when Volpe went down to AAA, when he came back from his rehab assignment and was demoted to AAA, he was playing shortstop every game in the minors. What's the Yankees' plan for Anthony Volpe? Are they showcasing him in a trade? I mean, I thought about that. Why is Volpe still playing shortstop? He's not ever going to be the Yankee shortstop again. Are you preparing him if Caballero gets injured, which he did get injured? But, I mean, Volpe knows how to play shortstop. He doesn't need reps at shortstop. Why is Anthony Volpe still playing shortstop? And I have these people in my Twitter, mentions and all these things telling me, well, you got to move Volpe to second. Guys, it's not, you can't just snap a finger. You can't just snap a finger. If you want to move Anthony Volpe to second, he's got to start playing second. And by the way, I don't think that's a bad move. Because Volpe is clearly in his head defensively about throwing the ball across the diamond. He doesn't think he has a good enough arm, so he's got to compensate, and he's rushing and all these things. It's a mess. I don't want to watch it anymore. So, if you want Volpe to still be a part of your organization, he should start playing second base every single day in the minor leagues whenever Caballero gets healthy. Because the Yankees don't have a second baseman on next year's roster. Jazz Chisholm is a free agent. Let's start getting Volpe some confidence playing second base. What good is it doing for the team and the player to continue to trot him out there as shortstop? What good is it doing? I don't understand it. A couple comments here. But that would be a big improvement. Read me some not good football for a decade, and that's generous. Yep, it would be a good improvement. Obviously, these are some giant comments. I like what you're doing, not being scared to call people up and send people down. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Yankees have been very aggressive this year calling people up. They called up Spencer Jones. They called up, they DFA'd Grichuk. They sent down Luis Heel. They called up Elmer Rodriguez for a couple starts. The Yankees have been aggressive this year, and I'm glad they've been aggressive. But, again, Anthony Volpe clearly mentally, it's over. And unless you're going to trade him, and look, I've heard rumblings, maybe the Yankees are going to trade Anthony Volpe at the July 31st trade deadline. And maybe Anthony Volpe's not going to be a Yankee anymore. And maybe you're showcasing him. You're saying, hey, look, here's a shortstop that we can trade. Now, I don't think Anthony Volpe has much trade value right now. I don't think playing him at second base hurts his trade value if you're going to trade him. But they have to define the new plan now for Anthony Volpe. And I'm talking about getting a room with him and tell him, you are not this team shortstop anymore. And not only that, you're not the future shortstop. So if they believe in him, and I don't know the answer to this. Only Brian Cashman, Aaron Boone, and the powers that be do. If the Yankees believe in Anthony Volpe still, as a player, as an entity, whatever, get him in a room and say to him, look, we value you, but you're not the shortstop anymore, and you're not going to be the shortstop going forward. So we're going to move you to second base, learn that position, play it well, and you've got a future. The problem is I don't think that conversation's being had. But that's what we need to see. There is no reason to run him out there at shortstop anymore. And there's no reason when he goes down to the minors, there's no reason to be playing him at shortstop. Because what good is it doing? He's not going to be your shortstop. So I think the Yankees are mishandling this. And again, I'm not saying that the Yankees are the reason Anthony Volpe didn't succeed. Not what I'm saying. I'm saying in this current state, when it's obvious to everybody that Lombard is the shortstop of the future, as soon as next year, Aaron Boone has said he's close. Why is Volpe still playing shortstop at the minor league level? Doesn't make sense. Anyway, that's the Volpe spiel. A couple more comments from Ray. Absolutely right, brother. Appreciate that. Did they want in years past? Did they win in the? I'm not sure what you're trying to say, Ray, with that one. But again, appreciate the comments. One more thing on the Yanks, and then we'll get out of here. Max Fried. Really now as of now, I don't believe there's a Max Fried update. Just checking my phone here to see if there is. Yeah, there's no Max Fried injury update as of now. Fried yesterday left the game with posterior elbow soreness, which, again, I'm not a doctor, but I think it's soreness on like the outside of your elbow or the back of your elbow. It's not a typical UCL. It's not a typical UCL injury. Normally. Now, I'm a little concerned that we haven't heard anything about Fried. You would think you would hear something if there was any kind of like, okay, it's only a 10-day IL or whatever. Fried himself didn't seem too concerned about it. Obviously, when one of your best arms goes down, it's very concerning because Max Fried's been this team's ace all year. Max Fried has been just phenomenal as a Yankee, and now Max Fried's hurt. So that is a big story, and now we will see how long he's out. Now, the one saving grace, and the one positive about Max Fried being out, not a positive, I'm sorry. The one thing that you could look forward to as a Yankee fan is that Gerrit Cole is on his way back. And Gerrit Cole is starting to round into form. He's starting to look like Gerrit Cole again in these minor league starts. In his last start, all very exciting stuff. 77 pitches, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. Very, very Gerrit Cole-like numbers for the Yankees ace. And listen, his return might come at a perfect time. Because you look at this Yankee team, they're sputtering. I'm not too worried about people are starting to say, oh, this is going to be the June swoon. I don't really think that. I don't think this team's going to go, maybe if they get swept by the Mets, then yeah, maybe they're in a swoon. I don't think they're at that point yet. I think that they lost yesterday because Max Fried, got hurt and didn't have it, and I think that kind of threw the whole game off. I don't see a team that's like giving away games. They gave away a couple games in Milwaukee, no doubt about it. But again, it's one series against a good team. I don't think they're doing this consistently yet. So I'm not too worried about that. But getting Gerrit Cole back, this could be the perfect time because Gerrit Cole's missed 15 months of baseball now, or 14 months of, he's missed 15 months with this injury. Not 15 months of baseball, but he's missed 15 months with this injury. How great would it be that if Max Fried has to go out, one of the guys who's going to pick up the slack is Gerrit freaking Cole? That would be really, really exciting if Gerrit Cole, obviously he's going to make maybe one more rehab start, but 77 pitches, he's close. I'd love to see Gerrit Cole back up here soon, and I think that Cole can really make a big impact on this team when he does return. One more comment from Ray here. I was listening to the game yesterday and I heard that and I'm like, oh my God, another Cole situation. Yeah, that's what I thought too, man. I was like, oh my gosh, are these guys really never going to pitch in the same rotation? That was my thought about that. But listen, hope Fried's okay. And, again, I think the Cole return could come at a perfect time. One more thing before I get out of here. I was looking at a comparison between the 25 Yankees and the 26 Yankees from an offensive perspective. And I think it's really interesting to look at this because the 2025 Yankees, I think, were one of the deeper offensive teams that I have seen in recent years watching the Yankees. They had last year 6 regular players, 6 guys who basically played every day, that had an OPS plus of over 120. Judge 211, Stanton 155, Rice 128, Bellinger 122, Grisham 123, and Jazz Chisholm 122. 6 guys who basically played every day, OPS plus over 120. Now you look at this year, and it's much different. Judge, Bellinger, and Rice all have OPS pluses over 120. And honestly, all 3 of them have been gangbusters this year, particularly Judge and Rice. Rice has been one of the best hitters in baseball from an OPS perspective this year. But nobody else that's like an everyday player for the Yankees is really an above average hitter. Like you look at Caballero, he's at 100 OPS plus. So he's, according to OPS, a league average bat. Right on the line of 100. Stanton, who was an everyday player, but he's been hurt the last like 3 or 4 weeks, but Stanton was a 101. So he's, again, pretty much league average. The 2 other guys that have been above average, above that 120 mark in OPS plus are Paul Goldschmidt and Ahmed Rosario. Now, Rosario doesn't play every day, and Goldschmidt doesn't play every day either when Rice is not hurt. So, in terms of the regular 9, when the Yankees run out, Grisham, Judge, Bellinger, Rice, Stanton, Wells, Caballero, McMahon, all those guys, when they run out their normal 1 through 9 lineup, they've only got 3 guys that are over a 120 OPS plus, and they only have 3 guys that are really even over 100. Caballero's right at 100, and Stan's at 101. So I just think this year it's not as deep of a lineup. They're kind of profiling a little bit like the 2024 team, in which obviously the 24 team had Judge and Soto having those historic years, and they also had Giancarlo Stanton having a big year. This team kind of has Judge and Rice having the historic seasons, at least through 40-something games, and Bellinger's having a great year too, but then there's a big drop-off. And, we got to see if that corrects itself. We got to see if Trent Grisham can be the hitter he was last year. I understand that there's been, he's hit into some bad luck, and I understand he's profiling better than his OPS, but again, his OPS plus I think is like in the 80s right now. And obviously Jazz Chisholm, we understand, has been terrible. Jazz has been nowhere near the player he was last year. Not even close. So anyway, those were a couple Yankee thoughts. That's the show for today. Really appreciate you all joining. Again, like the stream if you're watching on YouTube. I will be out next week, going to be on vacation, so looking forward to that. But you won't get a show from me next week. We'll be back the week after that, talking New York sports. Who knows what we'll be talking about at that point? Maybe the Knicks will be in the finals. Who knows? We'll have a lot to go through when I return. But yeah, again, appreciate everybody joining, and hope everyone has a good rest of their night and a good weekend. And I will see you all soon.